India finally arrived. We've been trying to do this for years now in fits and starts. The biggest hindrance has been the expenses of an electric vehicle, whether it's a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, as compared to a regular ICE engine. Electric vehicle is typically 40 to 60% more expensive currently as compared to its more traditional internal combustion engine counterpart. With that being said, more and more states are now trying to give incentives both to manufacturers so that they can produce at scale and produce cheaper, and to consumers where they will get some tax incentives and some charges waived off if they go in for an electric vehicle. In the midst of this, you have Tesla, who is planning to start selling in India, and this whole debate which broke out earlier this week with Elon Musk saying that duties to import his Teslas into India must be reduced. So the duties on a completely built unit right now being imported, including an electric vehicle, are 100%. Tesla wants the government to reduce it to 40% because they're an electric vehicle, better for the environment, etc. Domestic manufacturers, though, say, let's not do that. Let's go ahead and make in India and incentivize making in India. Meanwhile, global manufacturers like Hyundai are also backing what Elon Musk has said. So it's an interesting debate which is coming up. Several questions we want to address on the show today. For one, should there be an incentive for imported electric vehicles so that we can at least start off with more EVs in the country? Is it fair to charge 100% import duty on something which is essentially supposed to be better for the environment? All right, to speak on this entire debate on EVs, whether to allow imported electric vehicles in India quicker, which can help increase supply, save the environment, etc., or to give it some time and really push for made in India electric vehicles. Let's speak on that. I'm joined now by Hormazd Sorabjee and Arun Malhotra. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us on the show. Hormazd, all of this started, this whole debate in a sense got sparked off with something that you tweeted out as well. Of course, it was Elon Musk who first said that please cut the duties for Teslas coming into India. Why do you agree with him?
Well, look, I think firstly, duties on CBUs are ridiculously high, electric or non-electric. I mean, it's just not making sense at all because, firstly, it's not going to hurt the domestic industry by a long shot or at all. And, especially for EVs, I just think it's principally wrong. If you are talking about clean air, you are talking about, giving EVs a push to have an EV, or even for that matter, a hybrid in the same bracket as petrol and diesels. So I think, there has to be, or there should be, as, principally some differential between the two. It doesn't have to be great, but it has to be something that will just give the EV movement a bit of a nudge. Because with that, what happens is that when people start buying EVs, the infrastructure starts to be built. The fears you have about EV, the whole range anxiety, you kind of, let's say you lay a bit of a path for mass adoption of EVs. So I think, these comments, honestly, to me, it's just becoming a case of MNCs versus domestic industry, and not thinking of the bigger picture, which is really pushing EVs, which we should do, and especially now it's very clear that we've got to be as carbon free as possible. We've got to have as low carbon footprint as possible. I mean, just look at the weather around us, what the floods have done in Maharashtra, just crazy. No, global warming is a big issue. And the sooner we get rid of carbon-based fuel, the better it is. But it's a journey. There has to be a logical policy to do it. And I think one of them is to, let's say, ease imports a bit. So it kind of just sets the tone for EVs at the top end, and then, that filters down later.
Mr. Malhotra, do you agree that let the EVs come in? The fear of the domestic players is that they will have no chance to catch up. Electric vehicles have had a longer journey all over the world. If you're flooded, for example, with Teslas, which are on par with what domestic players are trying to make, they will have a very, very tough time, isn't it?
I agree with Hormazd. When we're talking of Tesla, it's at the very top and higher end of the price value. So the whole idea of Tesla coming in, if you give some benefit to EVs at higher level, is you bring the culture, or you can say you create some sort of virtuous cycle on the EV cycle. It happens. But I still feel the bigger pie, which is focused by the government, is in the FAME 2 policies, the 10 lakh two-wheelers and the 5 lakh three-wheelers. where there is given some more focus and a lot of state governments have jumped in. So the bigger action will happen at the two-wheeler and three-wheeler. The other challenge is that in the new policy or the FAME policy, the benefit which the government gives, the personal vehicles are not part of it. Only commercial vehicles are covered, which contributes a very minuscule minority. So there's no harm on giving a special benefit to CBUs or EVs, and that could be for a limited period. So I think the fears that it will be swamped by MNCs is slightly misplaced. And then you can have certain norms. Like we had a big problem that a lot of two-wheelers or three-wheelers which came in initial phase came the junk technology of China. So if you set norms in terms of power, range, and other things, I don't think it'll happen. So it's a positive move.
But Mr. Malhotra, let me be clear. You're saying that allow EVs to come in and reduce the duties. So Tesla, for example, is asking for 40% duties instead of the near 100% that they have to pay currently. If they are given that concession, why won't other players also want that concession in the two and three-wheeler space? You can't give that concession just to one player.
Actually, Tamanna, in the two-wheeler, three-wheeler space, leave aside China, there is no other country where we can get two-wheelers and three-wheelers from. So Tesla is something, a marquee brand which can spin off something. I don't think, as Hormazd mentioned, in value terms, it is nothing. But I think the ecosystem of the two-wheeler and three-wheeler has actually started growing in the country. The number of players who are serious players, not only the existing manufacturers, but the new manufacturers like Ola, Ather, and in the three-wheeler also. So I don't think that those fears are misplaced. I don't think there'll be a lot of imports. And most, except China, there's no other country where I think those relevant two-wheelers and three-wheelers can come in. The world market for even exports of two-wheelers and three-wheelers is from India. So India will have to take its rightful place as far as two-wheelers and three-wheelers concerned. And that's where 95% of the action should happen.
Yeah. So, Hormazd, you think there should be a graded approach? In fact, Rajiv Bajaj told ET Now recently as well that there should be a phased approach. What he is suggesting is that give concessions in certain price bands and then link them to the amount of manufacturing that eventually happens in India. Don't give a free pass to allow only completely built units to be imported.
See, look, to be honest, we already have a graded approach which works quite well as far as taxation goes. You've got the for regular cars, you've got the CBUs, you've got the CKD cars, and you've got the cars or the products which are manufactured completely, fully indigenous over here. So obviously the taxation varies on that. All it needs to be done is, let's say the fact that it's an EV, just maintain some differential along the same, in the same slab. So I don't think it's really, anything that needs to be thought about. I just think principally EVs in whatever, bracket they are operating should get a benefit over an IC car as far as taxation goes. And I would even go so forward as to say even hybrids. I've been driving a Camry hybrid right now, and it's amazing that in short runs you're running on EV power. But again, that's taxed as much as, a normal IC car. So I think, we need to have a logical thought process on this. And above everything, put the environment first. I think the whole issue is, are we protecting the industry or are we protecting the environment? I think we need to have that focus right up there. And then once you have that, then you know that you can always prioritize the ones which have the lowest carbon footprint vis-a-vis the ones which don't in multiple slabs.
Yeah. One part is about how you incentivize electric vehicles and whether you should give special treatment to Tesla because it's a marquee name and, it sort of pushes forward the agenda. The other question is, how ready are we for electric vehicles and that revolution which is coming in? Mr. Malhotra, let me take this question to you. Even today, there are electric vehicles available in the market, but they're at least 40% more expensive than their regular counterparts. Where is the incentive? Many states are giving a few incentives, but it's falling pitifully short to get people to actually switch.
I would have agreed with you, Tamanna, if we had this talk about 4 to 5 weeks back. A lot has changed in the last 6 weeks. One is that the demand incentive which is being given for two-wheelers EV has been increased by 50% under the FAME 2 policy. Second, the policies which have started a spiraling effect. You see the policy by Maharashtra, by Gujarat. Effectively, they are giving further incentives. Maharashtra is also giving an incentive on people who are able to adopt it earlier. Effectively, just to give you a rough idea, if you count the benefit which is given on two-wheelers both by the state government and by the FAME2 policy in the last 5 weeks. It is to the tune of 35,000. I was talking to some distributors who are dealing with EV two-wheelers. They say their demand is virtually doubled. If they were selling 100, it was a challenge. Today, they have a demand of 300, but the manufacturers are not able to supply. So I think last 5 weeks, this focus by FAME2 policy, and then the state government pushing in, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, 4-5 states like Himachal are to follow. This has added, just to take an example, an Ather scooter has come down, the price in Maharashtra has come down by 37,000. And one side you have prices coming down, the other side the fuel prices, which are petrol 100 rupees for two-wheelers. So I think the tipping point or the inflection point has come now. It may take time. Last year it was 1% of the contribution of EV in the two-wheeler segment. On a conservative basis, it will easily be 3 to 4% now, and probably in the next 5 to 6 years, it can be 20-25%. So I think the vehicle which was caught in the neutral of the first gear has started moving to the third, fourth gear, if I may use automobile terminology.
Hormazd, do you agree that we're ready to take off as far as the EV policy is concerned? Is the price differential narrowed enough, you think, for people to now choose electric vehicles, spurred on perhaps by fuel prices which are really beginning to pinch?
I think really fuel prices are going to drive adoption to a certain extent, but it really depends on the sector. Let's say, with three-wheelers, last mile mobility, all that sort of thing makes huge sense. It definitely does. For fleet operators, be it on two-wheelers or even in cars, again, it makes a lot of sense. Again, with two-wheelers, which are fundamentally city-bound, yes, it makes a lot of sense. And, honestly, I think Ola, if it is the disruption it is, and we just hope, Ola's success really is absolutely critical, not just for itself, but really to kind of kickstart the EV movement, in a big way. So all eyes on that. And clearly, I think, if what we are hearing is that the pricing with all the subsidies, with all the policies will be very, very close to an IC car, I think definitely, as Arun said, people, it will take off. But fundamentally, one has to remember that EVs are right now city-bound. So if transportation is fundamentally city-bound, which it is a lot in two-wheelers, it makes sense. The minute you start going out of town, I can tell you, and I've driven EVs, I've nearly got stuck in them. Each trip is very unpredictable. Unlike driving with an IC car, it's full of drama and anxiety. And whatever people say on range, the range varies rapidly. And I've discovered that EVs hate inclines. Gravity is in a way a big challenge for EVs. Depends which way you're going. So it's very difficult, to kind of have them go beyond the city. So again, that limits to a certain extent. Yes, the network is coming, but I don't see it coming to that level that, again, that it can be your primary car, which means you can use it in town and you can take it out of town. So still some time away for private cars. But I think, for, as I said, using it in town in certain situations, definitely it makes a lot of sense. And that adoption will be very, very fast.
No, but why will that adoption then be rapid with these constraints? I want to get a clearer view. Mr. Malhotra, you come in on this. So if I have now charging points, perhaps if I'm in a big city, but if I go a little out of, range and out of those city limits, I could be in trouble. I will have to pay more. And yes, petrol prices and diesel prices are really pitching right now, but they may come down over time. The other fear that people have is that it's untested. People are perhaps waiting for more wider adoption before they take the plunge. Do you think that these are some of the headwinds that EV adoption is facing?
What Hormazd said is right. The way our ecosystem is geared up today, it will be a first 20 city phenomenon. And the way two-wheelers are, they are not only, the unit of currency when we talk of two-wheelers is not district. It is sub-district or tehsil. So it will be a 20-25 city phenomenon. I think one of the challenges has been in the policy or in the approach, the infrastructure in terms of charging points has not been front-loaded. And that's been a concern area. So it will be a city-specific, but then there are a lot of commercial applications, fleet aggregators who are moving in. So there is a market to that. But the way today it stands, it will be still a 20 top 30 city phenomena, or say city above 10 million, city above 20 lakhs population. So that's why I'm saying in the next 4-5 years, even if the 20 million two-wheeler market, and that's the market it was 2 years back, even if it's 25% is done, it will be 5 million. Or even if 20, 50, 10% is 2 million. Today we are at the scratching the bottom of the barrel. It is 1.5 lakh last year. So there is enough scope and influence. And hopefully once the ecosystem builds up, and as Hormazd mentioned, the disruption in technology happens, which he mentioned with Ola or other players coming in, all the mass players which were sitting on the fence now have also started announcing. So that will, I will think, set up a virtuous cycle. So that way I think the inflection point is coming. But if you think something will change in the next 2 years, it's a big challenge. And regarding this concept of that's still untested, I think there is a lot of people who are using EVs, the initial EVs which have been used in two-wheelers, have had performed fairly well. Three-wheeler has been a challenge. And what Hormazd said, the range thing, anxiety and the range and reach has been solved. It's a still difficult journey, but I think the positives have started creeping in the last few months. Last 2 months, I would say.
Hormazd, yeah. So in Hormazd, in how much time do you see wider adoption, and what do you think could be the incentives to really drive it to the last mile? I mean, several states are giving incentives, Gujarat, Maharashtra, etc. Karnataka are really pushing it from terms of what they're giving manufacturers, in some cases for customers. But do you think it's nearly enough?
See, I think, firstly, we've got to take a calibrated approach, even as a country, as to EV adoption. We are right. We are behind in the race, but I think we have to convert this into a second or third mover or even last mover advantage the way technologies are adapting. Because, to plunge headlong into this, there are a lot of issues, I think, even for OEMs. They don't say it. They are all beating the EV drum. But right now, the investment in EVs is huge. They're not at all profitable still. A lot of the components are imported. Lithium is the new oil. That again is imported. We have supply chain is not developed locally at all. That will take some time. So whatever you say on taxation on CBUs, the fact is that a lot of components are already are being imported in any case. So fundamentally, even the supply chain has not been fully developed, for EVs or any chance. So, and that takes a lot of time. It takes scale. It takes generations of products to do. So I think we need to be a little calibrated in our approach. My sense is that to go to an EV future, you've got to kind of manage this transition well, and for OEMs, what they have to do. And quite frankly, the profits, bread and butter comes from the good old IC engine. And I feel that, companies which don't have a strong IC portfolio for this transition, they'll struggle to make the EV transition finally, because that is still going to take some time. And one more thing I'd like to say is that, looking especially at the four-wheeler space, these big numbers, frankly, I don't see them coming, because we know what manufacturers are doing. We know what they have on the table. I mean, some manufacturers making big claims of saying so many EVs by 2025. It's not going to happen. I mean, each product takes time to develop. Some of them are not even on the drawing board. The way product development takes, it's 24 to 36 months. So before anything, you'll have at least 3-4 years before they come out. So I think we've got to be, I think it's easy to get excited. EVs is a space, quite honestly, where words speak louder than actions. That's the way I like to put it. And quite clearly, we've got to just, it's great to beat the EV drum. It's great for valuations. It's a great, good, everyone does it. But we've seen our growth has been very, it's not been rapid. Not like China, we're not like Norway. And, there are the challenges. Firstly, they're expensive. We have geography is a big problem against us. We're a big country, we are geographically big. And that again goes against EV proliferation, which is very much, has its own urban ecosystem. So lots of challenges. I don't think we should be in a crazy rush, but we have to do it. Purely because, this weather out is just freaking me out. And I think, we have to get rid of carbon as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Hormazd and Mr. Malhotra, for joining us on this leg of the conversation.
Thank you.